Interviewing skills. In this interviewing skills course, you will learn the following: types of interviews, showing this is the job you really want, presenting a professional appearance, the interview, following up, finding out about salary, and coping with rejection. There are 6 different types of interviews. These are 1. Panel interviews, 2. One-on-one interviews, 3. Initial screenings, 4. Follow-up second or third interviews, 5. Telephone interviews, and 6. Group interviews. Hey Samantha, my phone interview went pretty well, but now they said I have to go for another interview in person. What gives?
That's not unusual, David. There are different types of interviews, and it's not uncommon to go through multiple interviews before you receive a job offer.
Why are there different types of interviews?
Panel or group interviews save a company time by allowing the employer to screen multiple applicants at once. This is typical at larger, fast-paced companies. Telephone interviews are often used to pre-screen applicants before deciding to conduct an in-person interview. In-person or one-on-one interviews usually cover more specific details about your background and job responsibilities, but can also be used for additional screening.
What's the difference between an initial employment interview and a follow-up interview?
Initial employment interviews are typically used to filter out less qualified candidates by using a combination of ability tests, language tests, personality assessments, and other pre-screening criteria. Follow-up interviews are usually conducted by the department manager and are more focused on the specifics of the job.
Initial employment interview may involve the following: a pre-screening process, ability tests, language tests, and personality tests. The second, or sometimes third or fourth job interview, is more focused on the specific job than the initial interview, and is generally conducted by the general manager. Showing this is a job you really want. What do you need to do to get ready to do well at a job interview? Experts say that you must be prepared. You must be able to 1. Show this is a job you really want. 2. Show that you know the employer's needs. 3. Be prepared to tell why you, above all others, would be the best person for the job. 4. Know how to describe and give specific examples that demonstrate your skills. 5. Know how to answer difficult interview questions. And 6. Make a good personal impression. Attitude. One of the first things an employer will notice about you is your attitude. Are you enthusiastic about the job? Do you understand what the job involves? Do you communicate to the employer that this is a job that truly interests you? Are you polite? Do you show an interest in the people you meet? Have you taken the time to find out a little bit about the company where you are applying for the job? Are you a pleasant person to be around? Do you show an employer that you would be happy at that particular workplace? An employer will be observing you closely to find out whether you have the right attitude. You can communicate a positive attitude in many ways: by what you say, by how you say it, by your personal appearance, and by your body language. Apply yourself. To be successful in your job search, you should know what type of job you would like and would be best at. You should apply for jobs you can truly say you would be good at. You should find out as much as you can about the job ahead of time. You should know what skills you have that match the job. And you should take care in how you dress. Do your research. Before you go on a job interview, you should try to find out as much as you can about the employer. See if you can talk to somebody who works at the company. When you drop off your application, ask if there's a booklet or a fact sheet about the company. If the company is a store or a hotel, stay for a few minutes and observe the workflow or the kinds of things that are sold. Go online to help you find information about the company. Even if you cannot get specific information about the company, you should do your homework to find out what the job you are applying for involves. You can do this by looking in the Occupational Outlook Handbook or another career guide. Make a list of the main responsibilities of the job you are applying for, then come up with examples of how you would be able to do this work. Click on the buttons below to find out more about what an employer is looking for. Dependability. Will this person be dependable? Am I sure she will not miss too much work? Is she the kind of person who will be late often? Good appearance. Does this person have a good appearance? Does she dress well for the job interview? Is she well groomed? Will she have a professional appearance at work? Will this person be responsible? Was he prepared for the interview? Can he show me how he has shown responsibility in the past? Does he seem like someone who can be trusted and counted on? Initiative. Does this person show initiative? Did he come prepared for the interview? Has he taken time to find out something about the company? Has he shown me some ways he has shown initiative in the past? Good communication skills. Does this person have good communication skills? Does she have clear answers to my questions? Does she know how to ask questions? Will she communicate well with coworkers and customers? Cooperation. Does this person seem cooperative? Will he get along with his supervisor? Will he get along with his coworkers? Will he get along with customers? Will he pitch in and help when special problems come up? What should I do to be ready for an interview?
You need to show this is the job you really want. You can do this by demonstrating that you know the employer's needs, being prepared to tell why you, above all others, would be the best person for the job, knowing how to describe yourself and giving specific examples to demonstrate your skills, knowing how to answer difficult interview questions, doing research about specific job and the company before the interview, and making a good personal impression by dressing appropriately.
How do I find out more about the job or the company before I even interview?
See if you can talk to someone who works there. When you drop off your application, ask if there's a booklet or fact sheet about the company. If it's a place like a store or hotel, stay for a little while to observe how things are done. Make a list of your observations. If you can't do any of those, you can find out what the general job description involves by looking in the Occupational Outlook Handbook or other career guide.
What do employers usually look for during the interview?
One of the first things employers will notice is your attitude. You can communicate a positive attitude in many ways, by what you say, by how you say it, by your personal appearance, and by your body language.
What else do they look for?
Think about the following questions. Are you enthusiastic about the job? Do you understand what the job involves? Do you express that this is a job which truly interests you? Are you polite? Do you show an interest in the people you meet? Have you taken the time to research the company? Are you a pleasant person to be around? Do you show an employer that you would be happy at that particular workplace?
But how do I show that I have the qualities the interviewer is looking for?
Be 15 minutes early to the interview to show punctuality. Dress well for the interview and be well groomed. Be prepared for the interview. Don't try to wing it. Give examples of how you've shown responsibility and initiative in other jobs. Give clear answers to questions and be ready to ask appropriate questions of your own. Keep a positive attitude and give specific examples of how you get along with people and handle conflict.
Presenting a professional appearance. Like it or not, people often form opinions of others only seconds after meeting them. They look at the way you dress, your grooming, the kind of expression on your face, and your body language. In fact, when experts studied job interviews, they found that the first 3 minutes make the biggest difference in whether you get the job. How you are dressed plays a big role in how an employer sees you. Dressing right says that you care. You care about the way you look, and you care about the job. Dressing well for an interview helps you feel more self-confident during those important first few minutes of the interview. Choosing your clothing. The clothing you should wear to an interview varies a lot from job to job. For job interviews on a farm or in a factory, you may be expected to wear a sports shirt and pants if you are a man, and a simple skirt and blouse if you are a woman. For many jobs in an office or store, you may be expected to wear a suit and tie if you are a man, and a suit or a business outfit if you are a woman. If you are not sure what to wear, go with simple business clothes. It is usually better to be overdressed than underdressed. Start looking in your closet to see if you have the clothes and shoes you need. Try them on and make sure they fit. Do you need them to be cleaned, mended? Do your shoes need to be polished? Dress for success. If you don't have the clothing you need, start shopping now. Look in department stores to see what is in fashion. If you can't afford their prices, see if you can find good thrift and consignment stores. Often you can get very good job hunting clothes there at a low price. When you first try on the clothes, you may feel a little uncomfortable. They may seem much more conservative than what you are used to wearing. Remember, you may be able to relax your clothing style a bit once you get the job, but for now, dress for business success. Presenting a professional appearance. Amanda is prepared to interview for fast food, telemarketer, manufacturing, janitorial, housekeeping, retail. Joe is prepared to interview for construction, machinist, factory, grounds maintenance, data input. Lorenzo is prepared to interview for computer programmer, clerical, social worker, nurse, paralegal, photographer, flight attendant. Amanda is prepared to interview for financial advisor, corporate trainer, broadcasting, banking, marketing, public relations, personnel. Lorenzo is prepared to interview for school principal, medical, business executive, architectural design, engineer, management. What about Joe? What interview is Joe appropriately dressed for? Interview clothing for women. Do's and don'ts. Interview clothing for women. Do's and don'ts. Interview clothing for men. Do's and don'ts. Along with your dress, you also need to pay attention to your grooming. Grooming refers to how well you take care of your personal appearance. Read over and discuss the do's and don'ts of grooming for men and women. See if you can think of any other items to add to the lists. Grooming for women. Do's and don'ts. Grooming for men. Do's and don'ts. You mentioned dress appropriately quite a bit. Why is that so important?
People often form opinions of others only seconds after meeting them. They look at the way you dress, your grooming, facial expression, and body language. In fact, the first 3 minutes of the interview make the biggest difference in whether or not you get the job. Dressing right is important because it shows the employer that you care both about the way you look and about the job.
How do I choose what I'm going to wear?
That's a good question because the clothing you wear to the interview varies from job to job. For example, for a position in a warehouse or factory, men should wear slacks and a polo shirt, and women should wear a simple skirt and blouse. For jobs in an office or store, men are expected to wear a suit and tie, and women are expected to wear a suit or business outfit.
What if I'm completely not sure?
It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. If you just can't decide, aim for business casual attire.
I'm not sure I have what I need.
Start by looking in your closet to see if you have the clothes and shoes you need. If you don't have what you need, most department stores have a wide selection of business casual attire, and if you can't afford department store prices, thrift or consignment shops may have suitable items at much lower prices. Make sure that everything fits, is clean, and free of wrinkles or dust, and isn't worn out, full of holes, or stained.
I get the general idea, but what about the details like watches, rings, socks, and so forth?
Men and women can wear 1 or 2 rings and a watch, but should avoid lots of rings or bracelets. Never wear sunglasses. Men should remove any facial piercings, but it is acceptable for women to wear a simple pair of earrings that don't dangle. Also, avoid bright colors in sports clothes.
How do I know what colors or styles to choose?
You generally have 3 choices. Women can wear a simple medium to dark colored skirt and white or light colored blouse, a basic medium to dark colored business dress, or a simple medium to dark colored suit. And men can wear a solid light colored sport shirt with dark pants, a dark colored suit with a solid colored dress shirt and necktie, or a solid dress shirt and necktie with dark colored pants.
What about shoes and socks, or belts?
Men should wear dark socks. Women should wear stockings. Avoid white socks and sports shoes. Dark dress shoes, clean and polished, are generally appropriate, and for women, heels should be no higher than 2½ inches. If the clothes have belt loops, wear a simple belt that matches the color of the clothing.
Is there anything else to avoid?
Yes. Pants should fit snugly at the waist, and women should not wear skirts or dresses that are tight, low cut, or shorter than to the middle of the knee. Avoid overly fancy evening wear, the types of clothes you might wear to a night on the town or church. Finally, don't neglect your grooming.
So dressing appropriately isn't enough?
Right. Along with your dress, you need to pay attention to your grooming. Grooming refers to how well you take care of your personal appearance.
What do I need to know about grooming?
Keep in mind these simple do's and don'ts. Everyone should bathe, wash and comb hair, brush teeth, use mouthwash and use deodorant. Avoid wearing too much perfume or cologne. A little is better than a lot, if at all. Don't show tattoos if you can avoid it. In addition, women should have nails that are clean, not too long, and without bright fingernail polish. If your hair is long, consider pulling it back for the interview, and makeup should be light and natural. Men should maintain short, clean fingernails.
The interview. Preparing for the big day. Tips. 1. Make sure your clothes and shoes are ready. 2. If you have to go to another office, plan your route to the interview. Make a trial run the day before. This will give you an idea of how long it will take you to get there, and, if driving, where you can park. 3. Don't bring anyone with you. 4. Be on time. Being about 10 minutes early is good. 5. Do not be too early. 6. Bring pencil and paper to write notes on. 7. Bring written notes on the questions you want to ask. 8. Bring your ID and social security number. 9. Bring your resume. 10. Bring reference information with you. 11. Do not smoke prior to the job interview. Introducing yourself. Since we know that the first few seconds when you meet an employer can set the tone for the rest of the interview, it's important to think about introductions. It is easier to get off to a good start if you practice ahead of time. There are 4 basic parts to the introduction. Introduce yourself. Shake hands. Smile. Make eye contact. It takes practice to remember to do all of them, especially since you do them all at the same time. Communicating through body language. You know job seekers need to communicate well, but did you know that more than half of what you communicate is through body language? Your body language includes the way you stand, sit, and use your hands. It includes your facial expression, gestures, and tone of voice. Your body language tells a lot about you. It can be especially important in a job interview when the interviewer is trying to learn as much about you as possible in a short time. If you want to do well at an interview, it's a good idea to pay attention to your body language. You need to use positive body language and avoid body language that might cause an employer to form a negative impression of you. Negative body language. Positive body language. Being prepared for interview questions. At most job interviews, a common set of questions is asked. The questions may vary a little bit, but they are similar enough from interview to interview that you can do a lot to prepare ahead of time. It's important that you are able to answer the questions with specifics about your own background and skills. To do that quickly and easily, you have to practice. The best way to prepare for the interview questions is to practice answering them. Here are 40 questions 1 through 5 of the most popular interview questions and answers.
Question 1. Tell me about yourself. This is usually the first question asked because it is a good icebreaker. You shouldn't use this open-ended question to offer useless information about your hobbies and home life. Many people will make the mistake of saying, I'm 32 years old, married, and mother of 3 children ages 5, 7, and 9. My hobbies are knitting, cycling, reading, and blah, blah, blah. This is not a good answer. A good answer to this question is about 2 minutes long and focuses on work-related skills and accomplishments. Tell the interviewer why you think your work-related skills and accomplishments would be an asset to the company. Describe your education and work history. Be brief. Then mention 1 or 2 personal character traits and tell the interviewer how the traits helped you accomplish a task at school or work. Do not describe yourself with tired old cliches such as, I am a team player, I have excellent communication skills, unless you can prove it with an illustration. For example, I would describe myself as a self-starter. At Acme Corporation, there was a problem with, so I created a new inventory system. Give details that reduced expenses 30%. For example, someone with a new degree in an IT field might answer this question as follows. I have enjoyed working with computers since I was 9 years old and have always been adept at using them. Throughout junior high and high school, friends and relatives were always asking me for help with their computer problems, so no one was surprised when I chose to major in computers. His answer could go on to explain how in college he discovered he wanted to concentrate his studies on a specific IT field, how his internships or work experience influenced him or led him in a certain direction, and how he has come to decide that he wants to work for this particular company and why he would be an asset to this company. Question 2. Why should we hire you? Take several minutes to answer this question, incorporating your personality traits, strengths, and experience into the job you're applying for. A good answer is to focus on how you can benefit the company. You can best do this by researching a company before the interview and be ready with examples of how your skills, talents, etc. can benefit the problems and concerns of that particular company. Question 3. What is your greatest strength or strengths? State 1 or 2 strengths that are work-related and tell the interviewer the story about when that strength helped you accomplish a task at work or school. For example, I have the ability to train and motivate people. At Acme Co., employee turnover was very high, so I give details of what you did to decrease turnover, train and motivate employees, etc. Question 4. What is your greatest weakness or weaknesses? Don't answer by claiming that you have no weaknesses. Confess a real weakness that you have, but choose one that isn't particularly relevant to the job you're seeking. Do not answer with phony weaknesses such as, I'm a slave to my job, or I'm a workaholic. Just state the weakness, tell the interviewer how it has harmed you in your work life, and what steps you have taken to improve it. A good step one can take to improve a weakness is to read self-help books on the subject. You might offer the title of a book you've read that helped you improve your anger, shyness, impatience, etc. Question 5. Why do you want to leave your present employer? You could state that you want a more challenging position, higher salary, or more responsibility. Don't mention personal conflicts with your present boss or badmouth your current employer or coworkers, as this will harm your chances of being offered the job. Keep in mind that interviewers love people who are looking for more challenging positions or responsibility because it shows drive, ambition, and motivation. Question 6. Why do you want to work for this company? Don't answer this question with, because you advertised for an X at www.monster.com. Your answer should offer what you think are the most interesting aspects of the company. For example, because it is on the cutting edge of technology, or because you are the industry leader. The research you do on the company in order to prepare for the interview should give you an answer to this question. Question 7. What do you know about our company? Those who answer this question with not much will probably not be offered the job. You should always research a company before the interview. Learn about their products and/or services, size, future plans, current events, etc. If you cannot find information about a particular company, call their offices and ask the receptionist to send you information about the company in the form of a brochure, etc. You should also research the industry in which the company operates so you are up on what's happening. You can find links to research sites by clicking here. Question 8. Why do you want this position? Your answer should offer what you think are the most interesting aspects of the position. More responsibility and opportunity, including a higher salary, are acceptable answers, but state them in a way that isn't blunt. For example, because it pays more is not a good answer, but stating that the position offers more responsibility, challenges, and interesting opportunities, as well as a higher salary, is a good answer. Question 9. Do you work better alone or as part of a team? If the position you're applying for requires you to spend lots of time alone, then of course, you should state that you like to work alone and vice versa. Never sound too extreme one way or another. Don't say that you hate people and would die if you had to work with others, and don't state that you will go crazy if you're left alone for 5 minutes. A healthy balance between the two is always the best choice. If you have previous experience illustrating the fact that you can work alone or with others, then offer it. For example, you might state that in your previous job you spent a significant amount of time alone while traveling, or that you have learned how to get along well with people in the workplace by working on numerous team projects. Question 10. What did your last supervisor criticize most about your performance? A good way to answer this question is to offer a criticism you received that is not very important or not directly related to the position you're applying for. For example, telling the interviewer that you were constantly criticized for coming to work an hour late is not a good idea. But revealing a minor criticism and telling the interviewer what steps you took to improve yourself is a good way to answer this question. In fact, if you can state that you have already solved the problem and received a higher mark on a subsequent performance review, then say no. Yourself in 5 years. Assume that you will be promoted 2 or 3 times in 5 years, so your answer should state that you see yourself working at whatever job is 2 or 3 levels above the job for which you are applying. Do not claim that you will be running the company in 5 years. You might want to add that you understand your promotions will be earned through hard work and that you don't assume you will be promoted just because you stayed with the company. Question 12. Why have you changed jobs so frequently? Reasons for job hopping should always be based on your past employer's failure to challenge you or fail to give you enough opportunity for advancement, and not on the fact that your past employers were incompetent, dumb, or unfair. Make sure you point out any jobs you did hold for a long time. Mention that your current goal is long-term employment and back that up with any proof you have to want job stability, such as a new baby, new marriage, new home, etc. If the job you're applying for offers you the challenges and environment you were always looking for, then say so. Question 13. Are you willing to relocate? If relocating wasn't an issue, the interviewer wouldn't be asking the question. Therefore, the only acceptable answer is yes. If you answer in the negative, you will not get the job. If you really don't want to relocate, then perhaps you shouldn't accept the job if it is subsequently offered to you. If you aren't sure, then ask questions about relocation, such as when it is likely to occur, where you will relocate to, and would it involve a promotion. Question 14. Are you willing to travel? If traveling wasn't part of the job, the interviewer wouldn't be asking this question. Therefore, the only acceptable answer is yes. If you are willing to travel, answer yes and give some illustrations of work travel you have done. But if you do not want to travel, you should find out more about this aspect of the job before accepting the position, such as how much travel will be involved, where you will be traveling to, and for how long. Question 15. Are you willing to work overtime? If this wasn't an aspect of the job, the interviewer wouldn't be asking this question. Therefore, the only acceptable answer is yes if you want to be considered for the job. If your past jobs involved overtime, now would be the time to tell this to the interviewer. Question 16. Have you ever been fired or asked to resign? When answering this question, keep in mind that the interviewer knows that almost everyone has been fired at least once, and it is almost always due to a personality conflict with the boss or coworkers. So answer this question honestly, but without attacking your former boss or employer, and without sounding defensive or bitter. Do not mention that you have been fired many times unless asked specifically, how many times have you been fired? Have a sense of humor when discussing your firings so that the interviewer doesn't get the idea you are a nut who might come back to the workplace with an assault rifle if you're fired. Tell the interviewer what you learned from being fired. If you have been fired many times, mention what steps you have taken to improve yourself, i.e., I have read self-help books. Question 17. How long have you been searching for a job? Why haven't you received a job offer? Why have you been unemployed for so long? It is always better to answer this question with, I just started looking, but this is not always possible, particularly if your resume indicates you've been unemployed for the last 6 months. If you can't hide the fact that your job search has been taking a while, then state you're being selective about whom you will work for. Of course, stating this might prompt the interviewer to ask, what offers have you turned down, which could land you in hot water if you haven't actually received any job offers. It isn't a good idea to lie in answering this latter question. A bad economy and a crowded market are good reasons one might have trouble finding a job. However, be aware that many interviewers will hold this against you even if the job market was very bad and many people were having trouble finding employment. Question 18. What previously held job do you consider to be your favorite and why? This is actually a trick question asked to determine if you enjoy the type of work the position you're applying for involves. Therefore, the answer to this question should be a job that requires the same or similar work that you will be required to perform in the new job. If you do not have a previous job wherein you performed similar tasks, then offer an answer that does not suggest you are ill-suited for the position. For example, if you are applying for a high-stress, demanding job in a chaotic environment, don't tell the interviewer you loved your position with Acme because of the mellow, low-stress, work-at-your-own-pace atmosphere. Question 19. Do you consider yourself to be organized? Do you manage your time well? The interviewer wants to hear about your work skills concerning time and task management, not that you have neatly separated the paper clips in your desk drawer into different trays based on size. A model answer might be, I manage my time very well. I routinely complete tasks ahead of schedule. For example, offer the interviewer proof of your organizational skills by telling him about a major project that you organized and completed on time, or mention the fact that you consistently received an outstanding grade on previous performance reviews regarding your time management. Don't reveal to the interviewer that you are habitually late or that you complete tasks at the very last minute. Question 20. Would you choose the same career if you could start over again? How you answer this question depends on whether or not you are trying to win a job related to your career history or are trying to enter a new field. No matter how much you despise the career you originally chose, do not admit this fact to the interviewer because it tells him you consider your work to be drudge. If you are trying to enter a new field, of course, tell the interviewer that you would choose the field you're now trying to enter if you had it to do all over again. That's why you're trying to enter it now. Question 21. Why have you stayed with the same employer for so long? Just as moving from job to job too frequently can harm you, so can staying with the same employer for too long, particularly if you've never been promoted and your resume indicates you haven't been intellectually challenged in years. Your answer should state something about your having worked successfully with many people both inside and outside of the organization, including different bosses and coworkers, as well as interacting regularly with various types of organizations and customers. Question 22. Do you consider yourself to be a risk taker? How you answer this question depends on the type of company it is. If it is a startup company or within a highly competitive industry, then they are probably looking for those more willing to take risks. If you believe the company is this type, then offer an example of a risk you've taken in business. If the company is a well-established industry leader, risk takers are not as highly valued. Of course, no company is looking for employees who are foolish in their risk-taking behavior, so a good rule of thumb is to place yourself somewhere in the middle. You are neither too foolish nor overly cautious. Question 23. Would your present employer be surprised to know you're job hunting? Never answer this question with negative information such as, my current boss wouldn't be surprised in the least to hear I'm leaving since he's been trying to shove me out the door for years. Always tell the interviewer that you are happy with your current employer and job, but are simply looking to stretch your wings out and take on a job with more challenge and, yes, more salary and opportunities for advancement. Question 24. How well do you handle change? The only acceptable answer is one stating you handle change very well. Don't just make this claim. Offer an example of how well you coped with a major change that took place in your work environment. A common shakeup occurs when your employer brings in new automation or changes its culture. In any event, tell the interviewer what you did to cope or adapt to a change that occurred with a previous employer, and this should be a major change, not a minor one. Question 25. What salary are you expecting? You should do some research before the job interview so that you don't ask for too much or too little. You might be asked to justify why you are worth the salary you are asking, so be prepared with an answer, i.e., tell them how your skills and experience will benefit the company so much that your salary will be a bargain for them. The best salary resource on the internet is www.salary.com, where you can find out what people earn in every region of the country. Question 26. How do you resolve disputes with coworkers and handle conflicts? Don't claim that you have never had a dispute with a coworker. The interviewer will know you are fibbing, since getting along with all coworkers is unusual. There's always at least one person you cannot stand. The best answer to this question tells the interviewer about a dispute you had with a coworker and how you resolved it so that the outcome was positive. Your answers should tell the interviewer how you resolved it on your own, and hopefully that you and this other person are now friends, or at least are able to work together productively. Also, concentrate on offering an example of how you resolved a work-related conflict rather than disclosing a personal feud over some petty subject. For example, telling the interviewer about your problems getting a coworker to take your suggestions on a specific project seriously is a much better topic than telling the interviewer about your feud with another over a parking space. And don't tell the interviewer that you resolved a dispute by tattling to the boss or trying to get the other person fired. Employers are sick of dealing with employee conflicts, and they want a mature person who can resolve conflicts on her own without tattling or complaining to the boss. Question 27. Who was your favorite boss and why? Who was your least favorite boss and why? These are two of the most difficult interview questions to answer unless you understand what the interviewer wants to hear, and if you realize that you can answer both questions with basically the same answer. Employers are looking for employees who are interested in contributing to the company, improving their job skills, and making a contribution. So instead of insulting or demeaning your past bosses by telling the interviewer that he was always hogging all the credit or was totally incompetent, state that you wished he had offered you more feedback about your job performance, provided you with more job training, or challenged you more by providing you with more opportunities to show what you can do, etc. You can answer the question, who was your favorite boss and why, using the same answer. John Doe was my favorite boss because he offered me lots of feedback about my job performance, taught me almost everything I know about marketing, and gave me plenty of opportunities to prove myself by giving me very challenging projects to complete. Never put down your past employers or blame them for anything in. Question 27. Who was your favorite boss and why? Who was your least favorite boss and why? These are two of the most difficult interview questions to answer unless you understand what the interviewer wants to hear, and if you realize that you can answer both questions with basically the same answer. Employers are looking for employees who are interested in contributing to the company, improving their job skills, and making a contribution. So instead of insulting or demeaning your past bosses by telling the interviewer that he was always hogging all the credit or was totally incompetent, state that you wished he had offered you more feedback about your job performance, provided you with more job training, or challenged you more by providing you with more opportunities to show what you can do, etc. You can answer the question, who was your favorite boss and why, using the same answer. John Doe was my favorite boss because he offered me lots of feedback about my job performance, taught me almost everything I know about marketing, and gave me plenty of opportunities to prove myself by giving me very challenging projects to complete. Never put down your past employers or blame them for anything in a demeaning or insulting way, since it makes you come across as petty. Question 28. What could you have done to improve your relationship with your least favorite boss? Again, refrain from stating negatives about your former boss. Put a positive spin on your answer by telling the interviewer that, if you had it to do all over again, you would have requested more feedback from your boss regarding your performance and requested to be assigned more projects, etc. Question 29. What book are you currently reading, or what was the last book you read? What were the last 3 books that you read? The only correct answer is to offer the title of a non-fiction book, preferably one that is on a subject related to your career or business in general. For example, if you are a salesperson, tell the interviewer you're currently in the middle of selling for dummies. Or if that seems too much of a cliché, offer the title of a book on improving your time management, personality, efficiency, etc. Of course, we aren't suggesting that you lie and claim to be reading a book that you aren't really reading. As part of your job search, you will have to start reading 1 or 2 acceptable books so that you can intelligently discuss them if the subject is brought up during an interview. The interviewer might ask you how the book is helping you, what you have learned from it, so have an answer ready. Some interviewers will try to determine if you regularly read by asking you for titles of 3, 4, or 5 books you've read this year, so be ready. Question 30. What is the last movie that you saw? Replying that you don't have time to watch movies as you are completely devoted to your job is not a good answer and will not win you any points, even if the interviewer was dumb enough to believe you. Interviewers are looking for well-rounded people who enjoy healthy activities, such as relaxation and entertainment, and will expect you to state the name of a movie. The movie title that you give in reply to this question should always be one that is popular with the general public, but uncontroversial, meaning that it doesn't have any negative or zealous political or religious overtones. Also, don't reveal the fact that you spend way too much time watching movies by stating that you have seen a particular movie 15 times, or that you spend too much time watching movies. For example, don't tell the interviewer that you are obsessed with Star Trek movies and regularly attend Star Trek conventions dressed up as Mr. Spock. A well-known uncontroversial movie, popular with the general public, and one that the interviewer is likely to have seen, is always a good choice. Question 31. Are you considering offers from other employers? It is recommended that you not disclose any other offers you have received or discuss the companies with whom you have interviewed. Therefore, a good answer to this question is to state that you do not have offers from other companies. Of course, if for some reason you believe you would have a better chance of getting the job offer if you disclosed this information, then do so. Question 32. When can you start? It is customary for most employees to give at least 2 weeks' notice to their current employer. Those in management positions are expected to give longer notice. You will not earn points if you express disrespect toward your current employer by telling the interviewer that you plan to quit your present job without giving sufficient notice. He will assume you will show his company the same amount of disrespect. It is also a good idea to tell the interviewer you plan to start learning about your new position and employer on your off hours, i.e., reading employee training manuals, etc. Telling the interviewer you can't begin work for a few months because you want to take some time off is not a good idea. Question 33. Why did you decide to attend X college? Are you happy with your choice? Always state that you are happy with your choice, even if you aren't. Do not state that it was the only place that would accept you. Do not make negative statements about the school or your professors either. A good reason for choosing a particular school is because you liked the particular program they offered, or it is known for offering a good education in your particular major. Question 34. What factors did you consider in choosing your major? A great answer is to state you have always wanted to become X since you were a child, and picked your major accordingly. If you're changing career fields or applying for a position unrelated to your major, tell the interviewer you were interested in that subject at the time, but circumstances have taken you down a new path. Of course, you should put a positive spin on it by also stating that you have benefited tremendously by changing careers, learned new things, made you more hard-working, etc. Question 35. Have you ever fired anyone? The interviewer does not want you to express either too much indifference or too much sympathy for those you have had to fire. Tell the interviewer how you discussed the employee's shortcomings with him several times and tried to help him improve, but as a last resort, you had no choice but to fire the person. Question 36. How do you motivate employees? There is not a simple way to motivate all people due to the vast number of personality types and situations in which people work. The best answer is one that tells the interviewer that each employee must be uniquely motivated. You should offer several examples of situations where employees were successfully motivated. Question 37. What is your commitment to this job? Most people would respond with an answer avowing a deep commitment to the company and the job. However, a better answer would be to state that your commitment will grow as you get to know the company and the people in it. Question 38. Aren't you overqualified for this job? Note that employers don't like to hire overqualified people because they won't stay around long. But since it is probably obvious that you're overqualified, admit that you are, but also emphasize the positive. For example, I am overqualified in some ways. I have more experience than is required for this job, but you are looking for someone who is an expert in X, and that's me. However, that doesn't mean I'm completely overqualified. I feel that I have much to learn in the area of X, which is a big part of this job, and I know it will keep me challenged. Question 39. Are you opposed to doing a lot of routine work? Don't answer with, "Oh yes, I will enjoy filing 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year." Instead, try to assure the interviewer you aren't going to go mad doing your boring job. For example, "I know this position requires a lot of routine work, but I don't expect to start at the top. I'm willing to start at the bottom and prove myself. Eventually, I will be assigned tasks that require more brain power." Question 40. Do you have any questions? This question is usually the last one an interviewer will ask, as it is a logical way to end the interview. Never go to an interview without preparing questions to ask beforehand. Avoid asking about salary, vacation time, employee benefits, and such until you have asked a number of other questions that demonstrate your interest in working for the company.
Questions to ask the interviewer. Be ready with some questions to ask the interviewer. Here are some suggestions. How would you describe the duties of the job? How will my performance be supervised and evaluated? What are the opportunities for advancement? Is there a formal training period, and if so, how long does it last? What is your company's policy on promoting from within? When can I expect to hear from you? Are there any additional qualifications you are looking for that we did not cover? Is there anything else I can tell you about my qualifications?
Behavior-based questions. Based on the theory that past behavior is predictive of future success. Questions about skills, character, and preference based on examples from your past work or school experience. Key idea is to paint a picture of the thinking that underlies the decision-making or behavior. Directive versus behavioral. What do you think of working overtime? Describe a time when you needed to work extra hours to meet a deadline or complete a task. Hypothetical versus behavioral. If a customer yelled at you, what would you do? Describe a time you dealt with an angry guest to ensure the situation was corrected to their liking. Directive versus behavioral. Can you identify a specific incident where your leadership proved to be valuable to the operation? Do you feel you have leadership traits? What are they? How to answer behavioral-based questions. Describe a time when you needed to work extra hours to meet a deadline or complete a task. Can you identify a specific incident where your leadership proved to be valuable to the operation? Describe a time you assisted an angry guest to ensure the situation was corrected to their liking. Illegal questions. Employers cannot refuse to hire you based on your sex, race, national origin, religion, or disability. You should not be asked about your religious preference, your age, your ethnic background, whether or not you are married, or whether or not you have children. You should be prepared in case you are asked questions of this nature. Sometimes employers may ask these questions, such as questions about whether or not you have children, just to be friendly. Other times they may use the answers to discriminate against you. You will have two options. You can refuse to answer and risk not getting hired, or you can be diplomatic and answer the question as briefly and honestly as possible. Often you can try to redirect the conversation to other topics. Of course, if an employer asks questions that are offensive to you, you should consider carefully whether this is the right job for you.
Ending the interview. Knowing how to end the interview is also important. Here are a few tips. Thank the employer for his or her time. Ask when you might hear about the job. Shake hands. If you really want the job, end with a statement such as, "I'm really interested in this job. I hope I will hear from you." A short thank you note goes a long way. It is considered polite to write a thank you note to anyone who interviews you for a job, and yet few people do it. In fact, experts say it is one of the best things you can do to make sure you are considered for the job. Some job hunters even write to the receptionist or anyone else who helped them at the work site. Thank you notes make a big impression. They show you would be a thoughtful and considerate worker. You should try to write the thank you note on the day of the interview or the next day at the latest. Don't put it off. It is best to type a letter on business stationery, but if you don't have access to a typewriter or a computer, handwriting is fine. Use a small, simple note card and be brief. Samantha, my interview is next week. I have almost a full week to relax before the big day.
That's not necessarily true, David. There are a lot of things you need to do to prepare for the interview.
Like what? I already polished my resume. I think I have the right clothes in my closet. Somewhere.
First, get your outfit ready and laid out at least the day before the interview. You don't want to be in a frantic search for clothes an hour before your interview.
I'm not sure I know how to get there. Can you come with me for moral support, too?
First, it's best not to bring anyone with you to the interview. As for transportation, plan your route ahead of time. It's a good idea to take a brief trip to your interview location before the day of the interview so you know how to plan for traffic, where to park, and so forth. Plan to be there 10 to 15 minutes early.
Okay, what should I bring to the interview?
Bring a notebook with blank paper and a pencil or pen. Have the questions you want to ask written down ahead of time. You should also have spare copies of your resume and reference information. Never forget your ID or social security card.
Wow, I think I need a cigarette.
That's fine now, but whatever you do, don't smoke before the interview.
I think I know what to do before the interview. What about the interview itself?
A good introduction is critical to the interview going well. An introduction has 4 basic parts: introducing yourself, shaking hands, smiling, and making eye contact. Make sure you practice ahead of time.
So all I need to do is greet the interviewer, shake hands, smile, make eye contact, and I'll be covered?
Not quite. Body language makes up more than half of what we say and includes the way you stand or sit, your facial expressions, how you use your hands and how you gesture, and the tone of your voice.
Then what should I avoid?
Don't stare at the floor or avoid eye contact with the person interviewing you. Avoid crossing your arms across your chest, yawning, playing with your hair or beard, sitting with your legs crossed while slightly kicking, sitting or walking with hunched shoulders, and tapping or drumming your fingers.
I'll keep that in mind. What should I do?
Look directly at the person you're talking to. Sit up straight, smile, nod your head when the other person is talking, walk with your head high, lean slightly forward in your chair, and laugh when appropriate. Keep these things in mind during the entire interview.
What comes after the introduction?
At most job interviews, a common set of questions is asked. They may vary from interview to interview, but generally are similar enough, such that you can prepare for most of them ahead of time. It's best to answer these questions with specifics about your own background and skills. To do this effectively, you have to practice.
Cool. What should I do after all the questions are over with?
First, thank the interviewer for his or her time. Ask when you might hear about the job and be sure to shake hands. Lastly, if you really want the job, say something similar to, "I'm really interested in this job and hope I will hear from you." Lastly, don't forget to send a thank you note.
Following up. You have already learned about calling an employer back after you have put in a job application. The callback process is the same after a job interview. You should wait about a week to call back. Be very brief and very polite. Mention the name of the position you interviewed for. Ask if a decision has been made. If it has not, repeat your interest in the job and tell the employer you are looking forward to hearing about the job. You should continue to call back every week to 10 days. Finding out the salary. Your salary is the amount of money you make at your job. It can be described by the hour, the week, the month, or the year. Most experts suggest that you do not talk about the salary of a job until you actually have a job offer. That way you will not be screened out because you're asking for too much money. But once you are offered the job, you should make sure you and the employer are clear on the salary you will get. For many entry-level jobs, you will be told the salary ahead of time. There is no room to ask for a higher salary. You may lose the job if you ask for more. Thanks for helping me through the interview process, Samantha. I'm still curious about something, though. At what point during the interview process should I discuss salary? We always ignore the money piece, but let's face it, most job seekers are anxious to find out about how much they will be making.
I know you really want to know, David, but most experts suggest that you do not talk about the salary of a job until you actually have a job offer. Refrain from asking before because this is a way employers screen candidates that ask for too much. But once you are offered the job, be sure you and the employer are very clear on the salary you will get.
Do you think I will ever be told the salary before an interview or a job offer?
For most entry-level jobs, you will be told the salary ahead of time, and there is usually no room to ask for a higher salary. You may lose the job if you ask for more money.
Will I ever be able to negotiate my salary?
In some jobs, you may be able to negotiate your salary, but you should only do this after they have decided they want to hire you. Make sure you do your research to find out what other people are earning in your area with similar experience.
Thanks, Samantha. I think I'll play it safe this time and accept what is offered to me.
Phone script to follow up with manager after interview. After your interview and sending a thank you note, your next step is to call the manager to see if a hiring decision has been made. You may want to review some scenarios so that you don't stick your foot in your mouth. We have given you several examples to help you get comfortable with the important follow-up phone call. Click on the buttons below to learn more. Phone script. Follow-up call. Good morning, Miss Morgan. This is Sherry Smith. I wanted to call and thank you for taking time to interview me last week for the sales position. I'm very interested in the position and was wondering if you've made a decision? If the manager has not yet made a decision, if the manager says that he or she has not made the hiring decision yet, follow up with one of these choices, or something similar. Am I still a candidate that you are considering? Would it be okay for me to call back on Friday? I really want this position. Would you consider hiring me for a trial period so I can prove that I am capable? Follow-up call. You did get the job. Of course, the best news is when the manager says that you were the successful candidate. In that scenario, be sure to keep the good impression going by saying something like, "Incredible! Awesome! This is fantastic! I'm really excited! Thank you! Great! When would you like me to start? That is great! I'm anxious to start. Should I bring anything with me?" Follow-up call. You did get the job. Of course, the best news is when the manager says that you were the successful candidate. In that scenario, be sure to keep the good impression going by saying something like, "Incredible! Awesome! This is fantastic! I'm really excited! Thank you! Great! When would you like me to start? That is great. I'm anxious to start. Should I bring anything with me? Finding out the salary. In some jobs, you may be able to negotiate about your salary. If you decide to do this, you should only do it after they have decided they want to hire you. You should have checked ahead of time to see what other people in the same kind of job and with your experience usually make. You can do this by asking other workers in similar jobs, or you can look up the salary range in career planning books. Often, it is best to give a salary range. For example, I know most carpentry assistants in the area make between $9 and $10 an hour. Since I have 5 years' experience, I am hoping I will be at the high end of that range.
After sending a thank you note, I'm done, right?
Not quite. You should wait about a week before you call back to check on the employer's decision. Be very brief and very polite. Mention the name of the position you interviewed for. Ask if a decision has been made. If it has not, repeat your interest in the job and tell the employer you are looking forward to hearing about the job. You should continue to call back every week until you hear otherwise.
I'm not sure I'm prepared for a response to different scenarios. What if I stick my foot in my mouth?
It would be wise for you to write a script of different scenarios so you can be prepared to reply.
Can you help me prepare a script?
Sure. Here is how I would begin the conversation. Good morning, Miss Morgan. This is Samantha Johnson. I wanted to call and thank you for taking the time to interview me last week for the sales position. I'm very interested in the position, and I was wondering if you've made a decision? If the manager has not yet made a decision, you would say something similar to this. Am I still a candidate you are considering? Or would it be okay for me to call back on Friday? Or, I really want this position. Would you consider hiring me for a trial period so I can prove that I am capable?
What if the manager says I did not get the job?
The most important thing to remember is to leave him or her with a positive impression about you. After all, there may be other jobs available in the future. I would reply with something like, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Thank you for your time and consideration." Or, "I appreciate your time and consideration. I learned a lot about the job and your company during our conversations." Or, if the person you have chosen somehow does not work out or another position opens, please call me. I'd love to come in for another interview.
What if I get the answer I'm looking for and he or she says I've been hired? I think I'll be so surprised that all I can say is thank you.
Of course, the best news is when the manager says that you were the successful candidate. In that scenario, be sure to keep the good impression going by saying something like, "Incredible! Awesome! This is fantastic! I'm really excited, thank you." You could also say, "Great! When would you like me to start?" Or, "That is great! I'm anxious to start. Should I bring anything with me?"
I can't wait to hear that answer. Thanks, Samantha.
Coping with rejections. Nobody likes rejection. Most people agree that it is the worst part of job hunting. It's easy to get angry. It's easy to get depressed. It's easy to decide to just give up. But if you want to get the job you want, you can't give up. No matter how disappointed you are, you have to pick yourself up and keep trying, even if you have been rejected for job after job. Remember, many people, even famous people, have had rejection after rejection before they got their big break. If they can keep at it, you can too. Don't take it personally. Don't use the job interview as a measure of your professional worth. The decision to not hire you was based on the company's specific criteria and needs, which may or may not have anything to do with how you showed up at the interview. That you weren't the perfect match doesn't mean that you're not an outstanding professional with excellent attributes and talents. Don't get your needs met through the interview. If you're using the interview to satisfy your need for professional validation, The results will be disastrous. Get your needs met elsewhere and you'll be authentically confident and polished. Don't bring up the past. It's funny how failures have a way of drudging up all our past failures, as well as all the negative feelings associated with the failures. It's as if our minds go into overdrive, then our collective unconscious kicks in and we're on autopilot into the failures of our past. Stay present. Don't let the past take over. Focus on your strengths. It's easy to blame yourself and focus on your imperfections when faced with a job rejection. Focus on what you're really good at and what you're passionate about. Don't beat yourself up for not being perfect. Ask yourself questions. Ask yourself questions so you learn from the experience. What would you have done differently? What did you learn from the interviewing process? How would you have handled yourself differently? By asking questions, we focus on learning and growth and consequently move forward. Accept reality. Accept that rejections are a part of the job search. Buttress yourself emotionally to handle the sadness that comes with rejection. Know that rejection is going to happen repeatedly throughout our lifetime. Accept rejection as a part of life. Keep it in perspective. Being rejected doesn't mean that your professional qualifications and personal attributes are anything less than spectacular. Employers weigh many considerations when recruiting staff. Many of these factors are beyond your control. Keep it in perspective. Their decision doesn't necessarily reflect on you. Accept responsibility. Don't blame others. Without blaming yourself or beating yourself up, accept responsibility for your part in the rejection. Take ownership for your contribution. You're not alone. Know that every day, countless others are sharing your experience. Seek out others. The mutual support and shared knowledge will be enormously helpful. Contacts and job leads, as well as friendships and offers to share technical expertise with each other, result when connecting with others who are on a similar job search journey.
Conclusion. To recap, you have now learned how to show that you really want a job, how to present a professional appearance, conduct an interview, and how to follow up. Find out about salary and cope with rejection effectively. Good luck.